Bonjour! For those of you who don't know me, my name is Anne and I'm the owner of Lingobox Learning, a language learning platform for primary schools. So in this webinar, we are going to be learning about teaching Easter linked to primary French. So we're going to be sharing some different activities that you can use in the classroom for early level, for first level or Key Stage 1, and then for upper primary, so second level or Key Stage 2. And we'll share some ideas on resources you can use, so songs, stories. We'll look at the traditional story for Easter in France. And all of the games and activities and resources that I'm going to share with you today are taken from our Easter Lingo Box on our Lingobox Learning website. So I'll show you a little bit on how you can get access to these, and also I'll share where you can find some of the free versions of those that are available on our YouTube channel. Okay, let's get started. On y va. Let's go. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is learning intentions for each of the different levels. So starting with early levels. So let's look at what the learning intentions might look like for early learners. So to do this, I'm going to use our Lingo Box, Easter, resource, and everything that I'm talking about today is based on the activities that are in this resource pack. So you'll see that there's lots of different activities in here, and I'm going to touch on these throughout the session. But the session will also show you how you can do these with or without these resources as well. And then if you're interested, I'll show you how you can sign up at the end if you're not already subscribing. And so the document that we have here is sample learning outcomes by level. So this is split by early level, so your kind of early years learners, and then first level or Key Stage 1, and then second level or Key Stage 2, so upper primary. And the idea with this document is just to give you some suggested learning intentions, learning outcomes by different stages. But just to make it really clear, there's actually a huge amount of flexibility in terms of what learning outcomes might look like at different stages. And a lot of these could be crossed over from one to the other. So this is just a guideline, but you could take them and use them at different stages of learning. So for example, you'll see here that we have for early level, it says how to say Happy Easter in French. Now, this might be something that you're looking to do with an upper primary class who've never done that before, and that's completely fine to have that as an outcome. So start from where the children are at and think about the kinds of things that you would like them to be able to do. And I'm not going to go through this in detail with each of these, but you can pause the video here, you can have a look at these in more detail, and they should give you a clearer idea of what the progression looks like for the different stages in the primary school. But just to reiterate that key point, that start with where the children are at, and there's a huge amount of flexibility in terms of what an outcome might look like across different stages, and depending on how much language you've done previously with your children and what it is that you would like them to be able to do. And each of these learning intentions link to different activities that we have within our Easter Lingo Box. And I'm going to talk about a lot of the activities and ideas that you could use yourself in class throughout this webinar. And you'll also find a lot of these activities on our YouTube channel. We have an Easter playlist for French on our YouTube channel, so I would also recommend checking that out. And these learning intentions, these learning outcomes, broadly touch on a few different areas. So for example, songs, so singing songs, joining in with songs, learning language through songs, then stories and traditions, and exploring stories and traditions and maybe responding to them and doing something with the language that you're learning. And then greetings, so Happy Easter, Joyeuse Pâques. And then learning vocabulary, so introducing new language, new vocabulary. So here we have some of our Easter vocabulary that we've selected for this. And I think it's really useful to introduce bit by bit new groups of vocabulary to children, because it gives you context for exploring how you learn and then building up the vocabulary. And it's amazing how many times you come across things like un œuf, an egg, how many times you come across that word. And then also it gives you a setting for being able to explore phonics as well and deepen their understanding of phonics and just build their interest, their engagement and their understanding and use of French. And these are just some simple Easter nouns that we've selected that I think work really well in terms of active learning approaches and modelling the language and then playing games with them. But you could choose anything you like, and you could work with the children to choose how many you would like to learn and then to choose which ones you would like to learn as well. And it's really good to have that discussion with the children. Okay, now let's explore how we might introduce new language. So, one of the activities which I love to use when I'm introducing new language with the class is keeping it really active. So using active learning activities, lots of gestures, lots of mime, and your Easter vocabulary lends itself really well to this. So you'll see that we have a video on our Lingobox Learning website where we actually have video with these acted out for you. But if you're doing this yourself, then listen to the words. So pick out some of the vocabulary you'd like to teach, listen to the words, and then see what you can do with that in terms of rhythm, in terms of actions, and in terms of movement, because that really helps children with the retention of that new language. And it also gives you a really useful tool that you can then use in lots of games and learning activities thereafter. So let's look at a couple of examples. So my favourite is un poussin, un poussin. So a chick, or you could do un agneau for a lamb. But whatever it is that you choose to do, it doesn't really matter. You can choose these with the children, and actually it works really well if you get them to come up with the ideas for it as well. So listening to the language and then coming up with ideas. And we also have lots of flashcards on Lingobox as well. So you could make these up yourself and use flashcards to introduce the language. But anything that you're doing at this stage is all about modelling the language. So for us, we do that through our soundboards, through flashcards, and through different activities that then really begin to model the language for the children. And the idea here at the start is you want them listening, you want them reading potentially as well, especially from kind of key stage 1, first level and upwards. And you want them doing lots and lots of talking. So this is really the modelling phase of the language learning process, where they're listening to it a lot, they're reading it, and they're saying it as well. So lots of modelling of the language and lots and lots and lots of repetition. And you could also use one of our songs to introduce the language. So a really good example for this is our active French Easter song, which is to the tune of Head, Shoulders, Knees and Toes, and which uses 3 bits of vocabulary. So it uses des cloches, which is bells, des cloches, un lapin, a rabbit, un lapin, et, so and, et, un œuf en chocolat, un œuf en chocolat. And that means a chocolate egg or an Easter egg. So we've got des cloches, un lapin, et un œuf en chocolat, et un œuf en chocolat. Et un œuf en chocolat. Super. And it does that to the tune of Head, Shoulders, Knees and Toes. So, des cloches, un lapin et un œuf en chocolat. Des cloches, un lapin et un œuf en chocolat. Des cloches, un lapin et un œuf en chocolat. Des cloches, un lapin et un œuf en chocolat. Super! And again, that's just a really nice, simple, easy way to introduce the language, and the children can sing along, follow along, and then you can use that for introducing those 3 bits of vocabulary. Des cloches, un lapin et un œuf en chocolat. Des cloches, un lapin et un œuf en chocolat. Des cloches, donc un lapin et un œuf en chocolat. Des cloches, donc un lapin et un œuf en chocolat. Un œuf en chocolat. Yum, yum. The next stage of the learning process is really all about consolidating the language that you're learning. So if you're looking, for example, at learning new French Easter words, then what you would want to do then is go on and have lots of activities that facilitate repetition of those words. So lots of listening, talking, reading, and then also writing as well from Key Stage 1, first level upwards. So when we talk about consolidation then, mainly what we're talking about most of the time with language learning in the primary school and older, but most of what we're talking about is games. Lots and lots of games. And I think what works really well is just to do lots of short 5-10 minute games with children and do it in small chunks and just fit it in where you can. So for example, if you're doing Easter in French as a topic, then just small, short, 5-minute fun games that you can do in class that the children will really enjoy. And in our Lingobox, we've got a whole range of different digital games. So we've got a digital games pack in our Lingobox resource here, and that has lots of activities and ideas for how you can use this and also just play them with your classes. Other games you might want to think about then are just really short, easy, active games to practice the language. So it could be, for example, something like charades and getting the children to come out and then to act out one of the Easter bits of language. Un lapin, un poussin, un œuf en chocolat. So ask them to come out and act it out, and the others have to say what it is that they're saying. Now, if you were using this with our own resources, we have our soundboard, and I would recommend using that to help encourage the children to give the answers in the target language, so in French. But otherwise, just really try and encourage them to use that language as they're answering as well. And maybe keeping it quite tight in terms of the language, so quite limited, so that helps to facilitate their use of the language as well. And you could do another version of charades. You could do another version of charade where you have sound effects, so they have to make a noise, for example. And one activity that I really like for Easter is doing a class Easter egg hunt, where you would then have things hidden in the classroom and you would call something out and they've got to go and run and find it. Or it could be that you decorate œuf en chocolat, so they might colour in, decorate Easter eggs. You have them hidden somewhere in the playground, in the outdoors, or in your classroom, and then you call out a colour. They have to go and find that colour, or they just go and look for them, bring them back, and then have to count them up and say how many there are and say what colour there are. So there are lots of different variations on a theme you can do with a French Easter egg hunt. La chasse aux œufs. La chasse aux œufs. Okay, let's go on and look at the French Easter bells story. The French Easter bells story basically tells the story of how the bells ring before Easter and then stop ringing on the Thursday before Easter. And then they fly off to Rome, and then they collect eggs in Rome and fly back to France and then drop all the eggs, all the chocolate eggs, on their way back for children to find during la chasse aux œufs. La chasse aux œufs. So during the Easter egg hunt. So the idea is then that the bells fly off, they collect the œufs en chocolat, les œufs en chocolat, and then they fly back again, leaving all the eggs on their way for the children to find on Easter Sunday, le dimanche de Pâques. And this is a really nice way to introduce a little bit of extra language and culture into your classes. So looking to see what the cultural traditions are in other countries. So in this instance, obviously France. And so we've created an animation that tells this story all in French. And the beauty with using an animation like this is that you can really use it with any stage of learner. So for early years, they would easily be able to watch along, follow the story, and then be able to tell what happens with the story. So they'll be able to retell some of the aspects of the story. And with the version on our website, we have an activity pack, which gives lots of different ideas for games. So for example, here we have one where you have some children being the bells, les cloches, others being les œufs, the eggs, and they have to chase each other, a kind of tig game. And then we have an activity here where they would create storyboards using the story and then retelling that through, for example, using storyboards or using storyboards and then presenting them at an assembly, for example. And the language here is language which they wouldn't be really familiar with, but by breaking it down, and there's lots and lots of repetition in the story, so it's really structured in a way that helps children to learn it and scaffolds their learning. But just by breaking it down like that, it becomes manageable, and then you can use it for things like storyboards and presenting and different games as well. And on the website, you get all the support resources and audio files and downloads to go with that. But you'll also find a version of this on our YouTube channel. So that's Lingobox Learning on YouTube. And then if you go to our Easter playlist, you'll find it in there. And along with some of the other activities that we've talked about today. So in the last part of this video, we're going to look at using Easter vocabulary to make things in French. And a lot of what we're going to look at in this last part of the video is around instructional language and how that can be used as a language learning activity where the children produce something by listening to and reading instructions in the target language. So I'm going to share some examples with you that we have on both the YouTube channel and on the website. And the difference here is that with the website you get more support, so there's more resources to go along with it, like translations and audio files. So we'll start by looking at this first one, so drawing an Easter egg. So really simple instructions, and again, the children can just listen, read, follow along, and it's a really good way for them to become familiar with verbs and also to get a sense of being able to understand quite a lot of the language quite quickly. So it's using familiar language, or it's using the same verbs over and over again in really simple structures, like for example, dessiner, and then shapes. So dessiner un rectangle. So draw a rectangle. If you were to draw the Easter egg, then you can follow up by then making an Easter card. So again, following the instructions in French, and then creating a card, drawing something Easter on the front, like an œuf en chocolat or un lapin, and then writing a joyeuse Pâques, a happy Easter on the card, and then using the inside to then write a message to someone. And on the website, we have all the support resources to go along with that. And the third activity, which works in a similar way that I wanted to share with you, is making Easter cakes. So again, it's using lots of simple verbs, following the instructions in the target language. And on the website, we have the recipe here that you can download and use with the children that they can follow and then make the cakes. Works really well with upper primary school. But basically, it works in the same way as the drawing task and the making a card task, in that the children are listening, they're reading, and they're following instructions to complete a practical task. And this is a really great way to give them an immersive learning experience. And it really does boost their confidence because they're surprised at how much they can actually understand. So these are really great activities to do with children and just in boosting their confidence and building their language skills. If you're looking to explore phonics at Easter, then there's a few things here just to point you towards. So if you're a subscriber to Lingobox already, you'll find a resource pack in here, one of our language detective kits that teaches you all about the ligature in French. So that's where you see the O and the E squished together. And we see that through different words. So we've got a couple of examples here that you see within this resource. And then there's an opportunity for the children to try and draw that themselves. So do the O with the E squashed up together like that. And you'll find a short explanation of this, of the ligature, on our blog, along with the French Easter word, which actually has that in it. So it's un œuf, of course, so an egg. And you'll also find here a comparison with the pronunciation recorded for you of un œuf, so an egg, and des œufs, so eggs. And you'll hear the difference there, that with un œuf, you hear the F at the end, and des œufs, it's silent. So there's a bit of an explanation of that on the blog. And it's worth just having a look at the blog generally. I've got a lot of the information on there that I've covered in this webinar, and I'll post the link for that in the description below. And another couple of phonics you might want to focus on through here is the IN at the end of un lapin, lapin, and un poussin. And poussin. So they're both un, like my name, un. So it's a nasal vowel. So So you should hear it come through your nose, and you can also ask the children to put their hand here, fingers here, hold their nose, and they should feel it in both places. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'd really appreciate any feedback or comments from this. And if you are interested in finding out more, then I would recommend looking at our blog. And if you're interested in a subscription to Lingobox, we offer individual and school subscriptions, and you can find out more on our site. And we actually have a special offer on at the moment of just £150 for a school subscription until the end of March. And if you have any questions at all, please do get in touch. I love to hear from teachers, and I'm always happy to try and help if I can. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.